Hello Challengers, I've just very quickly put together a video showing how to export GPX files from different software programs, mapping software. If you have produced your route electronically, then even though there's no obligation to provide the GPX files with your route sheet, it is really helpful to the vetters, the coordinators and to Challenge Control if you could provide those GPX files that are the output of you having produced your route using one of these programs. I'm going to go through OMN, Memory Map for All, Memory Map version 6, OutdoorActive and OS Digital Maps. And because those last two, OutdoorActive and OS Digital Maps, only allow you to export your routes day by day rather than one consolidated file with all of the days within it, I've also at the end included how to consolidate a number of GPX files into a single GPX file using one tool, which is GPX Studio. I don't expect anybody to watch this entire video because it would be quite dull and repetitive if you're watching for programs that you don't use. So I've put some timestamps just in a moment's time, which will show you the start time for each individual program so that you can just go to the one that you want. Just slide the slider at the bottom of the YouTube screen to the right sort of time. Finally, I'm sorry this is only for Windows. I only have access to Windows and to Windows software. So maybe if you have a Mac and have any issues, somebody on the Facebook group can help you. This is Anquet OMN. I've plotted very roughly a route that I've split into 2 days. And in Anquet OMN, you've got the GPX manager and you've also got a GPX editor. If you open the GPX editor, you can see the top level, which is called TGO Challenge Smith J, and you can also see the individual days that are within that route. If you open the GPX manager, then you can only see the top level. Now you can only export the route from within the top level, so you have to not only make sure that you're in the right file on the left, but that you can see the one that you want to export. You can then go down here to the GM and the down arrow, and as you can see it popped up with the word export. We click on that and it comes up with a suggested folder in the usual way of when you save a file. You can amend that folder to whatever you want it to be, and as we've already got one called Smith J in here, I'll just call this one version 1. You can see that it is a GPX file, that the file type, and we save that. If you now go to your File Explorer and you navigate to the file that you've just saved that in, you can see that you now have your GPX file there. You can then send that as an email with your route sheet, or you can upload it to an online file sharing service to share that with the coordinators. This is Memory Map for All, where I've just very roughly plotted a route that I've just split into 2 days for demonstration purposes. And if we go to this menu in the top right hand corner and choose List Overlays, which is where all the files that you have plotted will be, I've just amended the name so that we can see what we're looking at. So we've got TGO Challenge 2024 split into separate days. If you opposite right click on TGO Challenge 2024, that top level of the files, then one of the options is export. Click on that. It'll take you into a standard save as box. You can change where you want it to save, but just note where it is saving it, and you can see that it is saving it as a GPX file, and you can change the file name if you want to make it more obvious what the file is. Click on Save, and that is that saved as a GPX file. If you now navigate in your File Explorer to the relevant file, you can see that file that we've just downloaded is exported, is now there. So you can now attach that to an email, or you can put it uploaded into a file sharing service so that you can share it with the coordinators. If you want to export individual days rather than the entire route, then again just navigate to your List Overlays, and instead of choosing the top level, you can just choose an individual day, right click on it and just export that individual day in the exact same way as we just did for the top level, which would then export everything that falls under that top level. This is the previous version of Memory Map. It's Memory Map version 6. The current new version is Memory Map for All. This is the old version Memory Map where you've got a file organiser down the left hand side of the screen, and I've just roughly plotted here a route that I've separated into 2 days. And over in your file organiser you can see here that I've got TGO Challenge 2024 and I've got 2 individual days saved under that. Now if we just go to the top level of this file structure where it says TGOC 2024, if you right click on that and go to Save As, it'll take you somewhere in your file system. You can choose where you want it to save it in the usual way when you're saving files. Just remember where it is that you've put it and give it a meaningful file name. You'll see that it's saving it as a GPX file, so just click on Save. If you now go to your File Explorer, you'll see that in that folder you've got that file that you've just saved. You can now attach that file to an email or upload it to an online file sharing site, and you can then send that to the coordinators. OutdoorActive, which is an online digital mapping tool, and as far as I'm aware you can't have one overarching folder that you can save each individual day's GPX route in. As far as I'm aware you need to download each individual file separately. If anybody does know a way of combining them so they're still individual files within an overarching folder, then do let me know. But as far as I'm aware you need to download each separately. So all I've done here is day 1 of this route, and there's a couple of ways of achieving this in this software. If you do it at the point that you've created the route, then in order to save the file you would go Continue, and you would then change the name to something that you'd recognise, and ordinarily you just press Save Plan. However, if in the top right hand corner you download the GPX, that actually achieves saving it at the same time. So hit on Save GPX and it then downloads it into your Downloads folder. If you then navigate to your Downloads folder, you can see it there, and you can then either attach that to an email or upload it to an online file sharing website to send that on with your route sheet to the coordinators. If you've already saved the file and you want to find it again in order to download the GPX, then go to your account. You'll find it either in Routes or Plans. Haven't quite worked out yet when it puts it in which of these. On this occasion, it is in Routes. So you can then go to that file, go to the 3 dots in the top right hand corner, and there's a little symbol for Download GPX, so you can download the GPX, and there it is appeared again. Exactly the same applies about going to your Downloads file. You can see it there, and exactly what I said before still applies, that how you can then share that with the coordinators. Tool, explore osmaps.com, and once again I have plotted the same route going out of Strathcarron. Now this is another tool, being online, that as far as I can see it's not possible to take a number of individual days files and store them all in one overarching file. So as far as I know you need to download each individual day separately. So what we have here we will call last name first initial day 1, and we will save that. And as you can see you now have an option to export the GPX file. So if you click on that, it appears in the download folder in your browser. If you're using a different browser it may look slightly different, but there will somewhere be a download on your browser. You can then open the file, your downloads folder. There is the file, it's a GPX file. and you can then take that and either attach it to an email, or you can upload it to an online file sharing website and therefore send it with your route sheet to the coordinators. Now, because these you need to do individually, sending by email is only really going to be feasible if you subsequently combine them using a different tool. Now, if you've already saved that file and you've worked your whole way across Scotland before coming to download all your individual GPX files, then if you go to My Routes, you can individually go into each day, and then it's exactly the same. You export the GPX file. If you've got a number of GPX files that you want to consolidate into a single file, then one tool you can use to achieve this is GPX Studio, which, as you can see in the address bar here, is gpx.studio. It'll come up with this page, and you can just click on App, which will take you to this map screen. There's two ways you can get your individual files into GPX Studio. You can simply drag and drop them anywhere within this map panel, or you can go File, Open. That will bring up the usual dialog box, and you can select the relevant files and click Open. As you can see, I now have a whole selection of individual files which are a route across Scotland, and across the bottom of the screen they are also all listed individually. I want to select all of them, so if I just go to the first file and opposite or right click and select all, they are all now selected. If I go to the left hand toolbar, one of the options is merge items together. Click on that, and the option we want is merge the contents and keep the traces disconnected. That will allow each individual file to remain separate within the master file. Click on merge selection, and they are all merged. All those files across the bottom have now just become one. We now want to export that, so if we go File, Export and Download, that will then download the file into your Downloads folder. Now, it does look like it is just one single line and that all the individual sub-files with the individual days has been lost, but as I'll show in a moment, that is not the case. If I now just import that file that I've just created into OMN, and if I go to the OMN GPX file explorer, you can see it looks like there's just one file there. However, if I expand it, you can see that each individual GPX file is now included within that top level file. And if I just go to day 2 here and show that I can edit that day individually, you can see they are still distinct days, but all included in one file, which is exactly what the TGO Challenge coordinators, vetters and Challenge Control would like to see.